It says 4 of 5, and now it should say 5 of 5 here in a second. Of that restream chat thing.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. See, all right, we're golden. All right. See, it only takes a few times, and then eventually things start to work for us.
No, we're becoming more picky about our production value. Like, we spent time on sound today. We're talking about virtual backgrounds. Like all of a sudden, we're becoming production snobs. We tested everybody's mic.
But we did this for 3 weeks, and all of a sudden, we're just going crazy now. Master Grant decided to jump franchises on us.
That's all right.
He's just, well, that's how he is.
Down with the Star Trek.
There he is. Should we start referring to as Captain Miller now? Captain Grant?
Admiral?
Call me anything you want.
Admiral? Yeah, Admiral? Should it be Admiral Grant? Huh?
He'd be a high admiral in this fleet.
The one who's cleaning the toilets is what I am.
No.
He'd be the high admiral.
That's me. I'm a philosophy major.
So, you know.
I'm a philosophy major. That would be me in the bathroom.
Hey, I'd be the red shirt, so you know.
You'd be like a brave warrior, like Michael Dorn, right? In every series. Yeah.
Well, I just die every series, though. You know? Every series, though, I'd be the first one to die. As soon as we beam down, that's it. I'm dead. The first one that takes the spear in his chest. You know, from one of the Green Lizard men or something. You know, it is the old school one, right? So we have to go by that
original series. I'd be working in the bar. They had a bar on that ship. I'd be working in the bar. You know, Kirk held on to his ship. Unlike the other series, you know, all the other captains, Janeway held on to her ship and Kirk held on to his. That's what that's how I judged the captain. And Cisco more or less held on to the station, more or less.
Well, Cisco actually decided to just take a ship. He took the Defiant.
I love him.
He was one of my favorites. He was.
But yeah, so we're starting with Star Trek again. We're off on a tangent.
Didn't take us long at all, huh? We were on this tangent before we even got on air.
I think
before we started streaming, we were already on this tangent.
Yeah, and so the news, man. What's going on in the news? Are you guys paying attention?
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you watched. I think it was CNN this morning. Is it Jake Tapper that's on in the morning? I honest to God, I don't remember. I think it is. I think he has a show before his Sunday Meet the Press type thing. He's on for an hour or whatever it is. And he had Stacey Abrams on. Okay. And it was a really good interview. I mean, she's good. She really is.
I love her.
And he mentioned, and I didn't know this, that I believe it's next week, Reverend Al Sharpton is going to endorse her for VP. And I wanted to get everybody's opinion about that. Do you think she's a good pick, or do you think there's a better pick?
I think there are so many good picks. There are so many good picks, but I think she's a great pick. Every interview you see with her, she's measured, she's intelligent, she's well researched. She comes with the facts. She took a really strategic move after losing the race for governor in Georgia. I mean, I just admire her as a politician. I just love if I had little hearts to throw out of me here on the pocket, more production value. I love her, but there are so many good picks, right? There are so many qualified women to pick from.
So if you were Joe, who would be your pick? Well, I mean, he may even pick somebody we haven't even thought of. So
So I would pick Stacey Abrams, but I think Elizabeth Warren is hugely important to this administration in some way, right? I know a lot of Bernie fans want Elizabeth Warren to be the pick, and I love her, and she was my first choice candidate. However, I think I would pick Stacey Abrams because we got to win the South, and she's going to be a powerful force in Southern politics for decades to come. She's young, she's smart, she's amazing. I think I would pick her.
Master Grant.
He has to pick Mario Cuomo.
Well, he can't. He already committed to a female. He already committed to a woman.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. He has to pick him because, to be honest, right now, everybody in the country is watching him every single day, and his stock is through the roof. And I believe if he picks him, guaranteed win, guaranteed. Now, if he can't pick him, which is unfortunate, yeah, I'm not too sure. You got to think about, okay, if let's look at it from Trump's point of view. Okay, so Trump salivas over Elizabeth Warren. He'll be able to tear her down really easily. Stacey Abrams, she's new, so that's going to be harder for him to go after, unless they dig something up on her. And the other thing that you got to think about with the voters is that Joe Biden is because of his age, a lot of people are going to keep in the back of their minds, what if he dies? Who's gonna step in and take over when he dies? So those are three things that I think are pretty important to keep in mind as we're looking at these potential candidates.
Then maybe Kamala Harris is that person.
I like her.
That's my pick. That's my pick. First of all, as much as I like Stacey Abrams, the fact of the matter is she's never really won anything. Okay, she had a race. She got screwed out of the one chance she had of winning, and pretty much that's about it. Kamala Harris is a sitting senator now, so everything she says and does is already on record, and I think you can really frame her as, look at the light you can shine on her as going against Pence in the VP thing. She is absolutely the walking, talking persona of the anti-Bill Barr. There is not really a downside to her other than, and admittedly, it's a powerful downside, other than there are so many folks who still look at her as the police. And kind of give, especially with that, how strong-armed that she was with a lot of the drug busts that she had in California. That can be an issue for her, but I don't know if that's a big enough issue to disqualify her from a VP pick.
So I think she's more than qualified to be president.
Oh, I do
She's
too.
already in the Senate. I don't want to lose Democrats in the Senate.
Yeah.
And this is a very selfish thing. But if let's say a Democrat won, she would be a great pick for Attorney General.
Well, look at it this way too. The person who will be responsible for replacing her in the Senate is a Democrat. Yeah. So you're not going to lose a seat there.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern. Who do you get who's a powerhouse like her to sit in that seat if she's not there? And then I think she would be a great pick for Attorney General.
She'd be an awesome pick for that.
To go looking for some of these things. I mean, and then she can continue to be the police, and that's not a liability, that's a strength.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying Abrams, and I know I love it. I'm always on the outlying Pollyanna side of things on this podcast, is because the South. The South. And I think, here's what's going to happen. As in Georgia, so for the country, A lot of ugly racism is going to come out if he picks someone like Abrams, who is African American, who is intelligent, who has a huge political following. She has a huge political following in the South. And independent voters who might have gone for Trump last time are going to see all this ugliness, and they're going to have a choice to make. Right. And plus all this ineptitude and incompetence that's like washing over us this year. The reason we're in our house is because we don't have adequate testing and tracking, not just because there's a virus. Let's start saying that to our friends and family. The reason we're here is because this was handled badly. The reason we're, in the state we're in is because we did not manage this well from the beginning. So coupled with that, I think we can pull more independent voters. And Master Patsy, you're the expert on this, right? So that's my Pollyanna point of view.
No, you're. I've always, well, you've been around me enough to know I've a very pessimistic look at how people act, say, and do things. Right? And that way, you and I are very much opposite, because you definitely look at the glass half full. Right? You definitely do, and I'm the total opposite. I mean, it could be a quarter inch from the brim, and I'm thinking, "Holy shit, it's going to be empty anytime now." Right? That's just.
And I'm like, let's drink.
and it's the truth, and I honestly admit to it being a huge problem for me. Right? It really is, and I'm not exactly proud of that, but. So whenever I say, this is the way I pick, this is normally because, I'm afraid of going, I'm always looking for the safe bet, right? The fact is Kamala Harris would be an amazing AG, quite possibly, and that's no bullshit, quite possibly the best we've ever had. I'm just afraid it's not going to matter if we don't get there. And that's why I'm saying her, because I look at, California, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida. What other states do you need that's really going to make a difference in the election? Ohio's a toss-up, so we can we can look at that and say, okay, Ohio's out. Now we have to make up for Ohio. But in order to do that, we got to make up for Ohio with like 3 other states. And that would be the South then, wouldn't it?
Right. And also I saw a cool thing. A lot of my friends are, really powerhouses in the Pittsburgh political community, African-American Pittsburgh political community. And they ran all the stats yesterday in all these swing states that Trump won in 2016. And if the African-American vote would have been out, right, he wouldn't have even come close. But people stayed home. They were very lukewarm on Hillary, right? She didn't necessarily court the people she needed to court. And not just African Americans. She didn't even come to Pennsylvania to talk to the ladies, or, she sent surrogates. So that was a problem. And whoever runs this time is going to have to, be able to pull that side of the vote. And Harris is like, I don't know if she can pull that side of the vote, but I do know Abrams can. I'm not sure if Warren can, right? Question mark. Another senator I don't want to lose, who would be great at Treasury. So many of those candidates that were and let's not forget Amy Klobuchar. She's like a distant fourth for me, but still she's in that mix of women who are qualified, women who are smart.
Right. So it leads me to that question, and Dr. Di, I'm going to throw you a snowball here. Stacey Abrams or Kamala Harris, which one do you think is going to pull the majority of not only the African American vote, but the female African American vote?
Stacey Abrams.
I agree. I think so too.
It's damn close, but Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, I think I think Kamala Harris's negatives are more impactful in the African American community.
That's why we're thinking the exact same thing. Yeah. Hi, Lou.
Hi.
Hi, Lou.
Guess what? Android.
Yeah, I see that. You know what? I thought for sure we had that thing pegged. Oh, by the way, you haven't missed anything. We really started late today.
You know what? I was out and I got home. I said, let me jump on. And you know what? It was just, it wouldn't, they were both on, the video was off on both, but then the other one wasn't, I don't know, it wouldn't connect. So I just threw it on my phone. Even on the phone, I had to manually start video.
Huh. Well, you know what? It very well could have been because I screwed this whole thing up at 10 to 2. I had this thing all messed up. I was arguing with Master Grant about trying to get in. Once everybody got in, I couldn't stream this out to Twitch and everything. So I had to kill the original meeting, start up a whole nother one that none of my shit was connecting. Oh, it was awful. It was awful. It was a mess. But while you're here, we started talking about who do you think would be the best VP pick for Joe Biden?
I did catch Dr. Dye's, I did catch part of Stacey Abrams there.
My pick.
My pick would be, it's tough. I really like Kamala Harris. I always did. I'm really wondering if Stacey Abrams shouldn't be the pick and Kamala be the AG.
Look at that. You sound like Dr. Dye now. You do.
I said the same thing, but
It was almost verbatim.
I want to go back to Master Miller's point about Cuomo and how important Cuomo is in the world of politics right now because he has this 1 hour daily conference. And Master Miller, I just want to hear what you have to say about this. What if he's the director of Health and Human Services, or like some major initiative to save the country from buffoonery in science and medicine and climate change? Like, what if that's where he accelerates? And he may want to stay governor of New York. I mean, there may be more power in that seat for him. So Master Miller, I want to hear everything because you're watching him, obviously.
Oh, let me ask this question. If Joe Biden does get elected, and let's say he passes away after 2 years, who do you feel is best to run the country with him being out?
Harris.
Me too. Yeah, I think so too. Lou?
Yeah, I'd have to agree there just because she's been in the Senate. She knows the game. She knows who she's dealing with. Stacey Abrams, not so much. I think initially Abrams would draw more of that the black vote and what we really need is the black female vote. But I guess you got to think about that. It's just something. Maybe that's what they're thinking about themselves, because I believe Biden said he's only going to do one term. Yeah. So maybe they're thinking about if I only do one term, who's going to be the strongest to carry for the 2 terms after?
Right.
And it's Harris.
Yeah, but again, we're going to go back to that original question. The thing that I fear is Harris going to be the person who helps get him over in November of 2020, let alone 2024.
That's where Master Miller has a great point. People like Cuomo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
but don't forget, he did commit though. He committed to a female. So it's going to be even worse for him if he decides, you know what, I changed my mind. Hell, he's not going to get half the votes he should be getting then.
I don't think he'd bring Cuomo in.
Well, Cuomo did serve. Was it under Obama or under Clinton? He had a cabinet post.
Probably Clinton. Let's look.
Oh yeah, we can do that, huh? Well, you guys better. The way my day's going, I'm going to screw something up. Oh, Lou, it was awful. It was terrible.
Here, let me throw this in there too. Thinking about the racism in the country, is Stacey Abrams too dark to bring some of the moderate voters over that voted for Trump? I mean,
I
seriously.
I can tell you in all honesty, I know quite a few people who are Democrats. I'm not going to say that they're necessarily progressive or even liberal for that point, but I do know a lot of Democrats who, and as much as I hate to say it, I'm really going to sound like an asshole saying it. She's just either too dark or not pretty enough.
That's horrible.
Oh, it's
Uh,
terrible.
Which I don't think
Oh, you're
about,
right. It's terrible.
but I'm just bringing up, I know how some of these idiots think.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And it's like I'm going to be the asshole for saying it, right? And if
Well, we're in
anybody's,
Mayberry, we know that.
yeah, well, in Mayberry, we're the only, you and I are 2 of 5 people that are going to vote for her anyhow. So,
And I know the other 3.
yeah, we know the other 3. Right? So it doesn't matter anyhow. I mean, you got Dr. Diet and Bob, and that's probably and Kelly and Tom. So you got 4 out in this I'm sorry, Dystopiaville. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all right. In Dystopiaville, we used to all fit in one car. When I moved here, all of the Democrats fit in one car. We could go places together. It was pleasant. We could talk along the way. Then we got up to 3 cars, and I thought we had really done some hard political work. And by the time Obama was elected, we needed a bus. So that's certainly receded in the intervening years because the students that helped build that organization obviously graduated and moved on. But I think one event can change an election, right? We've seen that with all the recent elections, right? Not only is this a huge thing, this thing we're living through now, but one ad, one commercial, one statement, one well done piece of media. For example, Mitt Romney was sank completely. They sunk him right on that speech that was recorded by that waiter, where he said 47% are takers and they're not going to vote for me anyway. I got to go for this small little margin up here. I mean, that sunk his campaign. That was the end. It was like he put a brick around his foot and sank himself to the bottom. Trump's got a lot of bricks. I'm just hoping the independents, the smart independents, won't be the yahoos out here we're depending on to get back to Lou's point and your point, and we don't have to worry about Joe Yahoo because we got so much support coming from the city and from the state itself in the independents, the smart independents who might have tried Trump last time.
Yeah, you had Howard Dean scream. You had Dukakis in the tank. Yeah, it's it. Just one thing, and that was back whenever media was a lot more controlled than it is now. Yeah, it's a great point.
Do you think that one thing is out the window now, or just for Republicans? Because think of all the one things he did that should have disqualified him all the way through the election, starting with making fun of a disabled reporter, the Entertainment Tonight tape, and
it might be 10 things now because we're so desensitized to his coarseness, right? He's coarse and he's nasty, but this whole let them die thing, right? He's going to react to a second outbreak in a certain way. He's going to react to states like Georgia and Florida if they have bad outcomes. There's so much more him on camera that we haven't seen yet, and he's destabilizing rapidly. Like if he were in any kind of mental care, we'd say he's on the decline. So like he's going to say or do something that's just too much for the vast majority of people who flipped sides last time. And again, Pollyanna moment. And I believe a lot of those people are going to flip back.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to just piggyback on what you said, Pollyanna, and that is all those other things, Lou. Whenever it was the disabled reporter, it was the Entertainment Tonight thing, it was Stormy Daniels, was all down the line. It was always something that was happening to somebody else. It was always something that was happening to like we used to, like I like to say whenever Fox Entertainment talks about people who aren't WASPs as being the other. Right now, this thing is happening to them. It's not happening to just the other. It's happening to them too. It's happening to their mothers and their sisters and their nieces and nephews and cousins. So all of the Fox Entertainment yahoos who were looking at the disabled reporter as that other can't do that now. They're looking at, holy shit, it's my mom in a nursing home.
Right.
And I think that's going to have a huge impact on his dozens of moments now. I think it's finally going to hit home to these clowns. How's that for positive, Dr. Dye? Is that
That was
right?
downright optimistic. I want to hear what Master Miller has to say.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not as optimistic. I feel that he was elected because the white people, were tired of having a black president, and that is exactly why the majority of white women voted for him, and why we have so many independents who voted for him. And I'm like you said, Master Zarilla. I'm sorry to say that. I'm going to be the asshole now, but that's the truth, and that's still going to be the truth coming up. And that's something that the Democrats have to take into account. That Hillary lost because of white women. That's why she lost the election. There's not a white woman that I know that said they voted for her.
I did.
And why is that? Why?
Yeah, my wife did.
Okay,
you know too.
But why
Honoring
is
my wife.
why was there such a turn against her? When there was everybody thought she was going to win, hands down.
Well, she wasn't a good candidate.
She was a little condescending. She acted like a private school girl, okay? And white women who are not private school girls, I heard women say, I just don't like her. And all kinds of like character judgments that we usually don't make about men were made about her. So that's one thing. I think you're right about the racism. I'm not going to lie. I think you're right about the racism, but her ticket was white top to bottom. So I'm going to take that out of the equation for a second. And she was the first woman candidate. She was characterized in a certain hysterical kind of way. And the way that she was portrayed to other white women is, here's a white woman who's better than you, who went to all the right schools, who's a lawyer, and I have all those letters and numbers. And even I was like, oh shit, she's way better than me. And I'm like, wait, I've gone to all these, like upper level graduate programs and all that good stuff. And I'm feeling inferior, right? So I feel like there was this thing in the portrayal in the media of her talking down to women, and that's where she lost white women. But again, had the African-American vote come out, then the white women would have been much less consequential in that election. I'm going to go with the math, say that's right. But then there's this other thing. She couldn't get other people to step up for her when the white women went, okay, I'm done, because I don't like her because she's snotty.
You had people all over the place telling her, and her husband was one of them, get to Michigan, get to Ohio, get to Pennsylvania. The night before the election, who was in Pennsylvania? The Obamas. Where the hell was she?
That's right? Problematic.
That's a problem. That's a serious issue. Whenever you have, look, after Obama served out his term, a lot of people needed a reason to go vote now. All right. So she had to give them that reason.
And she did not.
She simply did not. And even whenever everybody around her told her, you need to do this, she just looked at the polls and said, you know what? I don't need to. And I think that's a huge mistake that I don't think any Democrat's going to repeat, not anytime soon, anyhow.
I think women too have to learn how to run in a certain. Elizabeth Warren is a more tragic example of misogyny, right? Because she was qualified. She did the right thing. She went to the right states. She took photos with everyone in America, and she still couldn't get into the top 3 in the end. So that's a more tragic, like she's a woman problem. But I think with Clinton too, you cannot underestimate the effects of 30 years of Murdoch's media in people's ears. Yeah. In all the ears for all the men that you 3 are talking about, all these white guys who don't like women and don't like minorities and don't like people of color and don't want foreigners coming to our country, like that whole squad, right? They had 30 years of anti-Clinton media to run on. They had like a powerhouse of media material to just like throw, into the mix. And like, remember Hillary and Bill, remember Whitewater, remember, like whatever they needed on any given day, they had so much media to throw into that campaign. Whereas Biden's running up against some issues right now. And he said he would run a woman for a very specific reason. He's running up against allegations that he too was a sexual cad in the 80s, and so there's a lot going on here. But I think Trump's overall mismanagement of everything and the worst depression since before the Great Depression. I mean, this is worse than the Great Depression in some ways, because it's like weird and artificial and it could come back. It's not caused by some economic thing in the stock market that you can fix with money policy. This is a thing that's like kind of going to go a couple different ways depending on how we handle science. And so Trump can't fix this,
No.
And he obviously can't manage it. Oh my God.
No, he can't.
He's running away from his own press conferences now, so.
So you watch Fox Entertainment strategy with this Biden, the allegations against Biden with the sexual misconduct. Okay, so Fox Entertainment knows that the counter is going to be, well, look at all the bad things Trump did. So what does Fox do? They do what they've always done, turn it back. And so they turn us back to CNN and the MSNBCs and say, where's your coverage on this? Where's your coverage? And when they go, well, look at Trump, but you're not covering this. We've got graphs, we've got things, you dedicated to Trump, you dedicated 50% of your news time. For Biden sexual, you've got 5%. Why is that? Why is that? And they redirect it. It's brilliant. You got to give them credit because
they do.
Because they're going to win this argument. And this is, I'm looking at this, and this could be Biden's downfall.
I think Biden needs to manage it. Mm-hmm. Biden needs to manage it. He needs to point out that he may have an accuser. He needs to deal with that, right? But Trump has 12 accusers. Okay, like the proportion.
12 that we know of.
Right, and there's even more now. There's dozens, but there are women who are saying like, he pushed me up against the wall and completely raped me, and so we need to manage. You're right. We need to manage that perception, right? We're going to be talking about who's more of a misogynist, under that rubric. And then we have to turn the dialogue away from that and say, let's look at the economy, shall we? Because I think that's going to be an overriding concern for everybody.
One of the things that gets me on his accuser was she actually had a statement saying that she admired the way how he backed all the women's issues and treated women in general. That was, I don't know how many years ago that was, but it was after that incident, supposedly. And now she can't even remember where that happened. I mean, I don't want to sound like one of the right-wing people, but
that's how we should play it, Lou. Just the way you're playing it.
The other part that killed me is everybody who even took 5 minutes to look into this has said there's nothing there. I mean, everybody who's looked into this. I don't care if you're in the government. I don't care if you're a news agency, and everybody but an entertainment network has looked into this and said, you know what, there's nothing here. So
it has to be managed, and you can't let them ride it. You got to knock them off that horse. Grant's right. You got to knock them off their horse when they do stuff like that.
Do you think it would matter though? So we knock them off the horse, okay? We absolutely.
They find a new horse.
Blast. They'll find a new horse. Well, that's just it. Are you going to run around and put out these fires that are as far as we know are fabricated, or are you just going to say, you know what, we're just going to go on our way and let these assholes talk all they want?
They're going to have to keep explaining away the mismanagement. and you have to keep turning them back. Like when they get knocked off the horse, it's like a video game, right? You have to keep making them contend with the mismanagement of the present crisis. And you have to keep the dialogue focused there. And the Democrats have been notoriously bad at taking advantage of the weaknesses of their opponents. I think this is what Master Miller is really getting at. Fox is really good at finding my weakness and hitting me in that place 1,000 times until I fall, 1,000 little cuts until I fall. But then they have so many weaknesses. We got to find a few and hammer them, not just point out the 1,000 weaknesses. Like, oh, look, they have 1,000 weaknesses. Nobody understands that. You got to keep hitting them with the couple that are the mostly affecting everybody. And this economy is going to affect everybody, just everybody.
Exactly. But yes, you're right. That's exactly what they need to do. But when you are not an entertainment network, you can't be given directives like that. Fox Entertainment is able to receive daily directives that's not only copied to Fox Entertainment, but those same directives are copied to Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, and everybody else on the conservative talk radio network. So they have a unified messaging system that's going out day after day. Whereas CNN, who can do that to CNN? They don't have that structure.
Right.
Are there any talk radio that are progressive, liberal minded that have any type of pull? I know there's a couple little ones here and there, but anybody have the name of Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity? We're getting
Closest I can think of is Stephanie Miller.
Well, and Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! That's huge on the left.
You got Free Speech TV, right? That's
pretty
Democracy
much it.
Now! And that's it.
And the roofer who works all day listening to the radio will never have heard those names.
Probably
right.
not. Probably not.
No, you're right. They're not on. It's hard to find Stephanie Miller. I mean, you got to go look for progressive radio on XM, right? There's 6 right-wing channels and there's 1 or 2. Like if you count BBC, maybe there's 3.
Well, you got BBC, that's a maybe. You got NPR, that's a maybe. NPR, who's a stretch. I mean, I'm stretching it here, right? Al Jazeera doesn't have anything. You got MSNBC, which depending on who it is, like Chucky Todd has no business being anywhere. And then you have Sirius, what is the Sirius? Progressive.
Progress.
Right? Progress, which is basically Free Speech TV, right? Because they have Hartman and
Stephanie Miller.
Michelangelo Signorelli and Stephanie Miller and a couple of those other guys, but that's it. There's like 1 channel. That you're absolutely right. There's 1, maybe 2 if you count MSNBC.
And here's what the roofer will say to each one of them. To NPR, I don't listen to that liberal BS. BBC, hey, I'm an American. Okay, Al Jazeera, hey, why would I listen to jihadis garbage? One right after the other. Stephanie Miller, Stephanie who isn't she the comedian on Saturday Night Live? They won't. Nobody will turn those on or listen to them or give them any clout or merit.
No, they won't. No.
Well, I mean, until you can match a Murdoch dollar for dollar in the media market, you're right, Master Miller. That's not where it's going to happen. They do have coordinated messaging, but you have to make their messaging look like propaganda. You have to turn their messaging and their network against them. I mean, so far on their network, they've advised people to, that they've told people it can't happen to you. They've equivocated the virus with the flu. Trump's had like 4 or 5 bogus cures already. I can't keep track of them, right? I'm just on the detergent one because that's the drink of the week, right? The Trumptini with Clorox and, the Trumptini, man. Drink yourself a Clorox. Like
that.
I think one of the messages they have to turn back on Fox is to take every person that was on there willing to sacrifice grandma and grandpa for the economy.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones
absolutely.
I believe should be pounded. All that age group, 55 and above, they got to keep pounding us as, you know what? You don't mean anything to Republicans. Why would you vote that way? They want your Social Security anyhow.
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
Medicare.
Whenever
That's
the
just
the best unified messaging you have from the left is basically Saturday Night Live or Comedy Central, right? Yeah, you're kind of losing that argument, and they are, you know. And the thing that you and Lou, you're right, and or really all three of you are right. You know, there's an old saying that says if you're explaining, you're losing, right? If you are responding to something that Fox Entertainment does, in essence, you're explaining, right? People don't see the difference. They just see you're accused of something. Now you're answering that accusation. So you're explaining it. You have to be out in front. You have to hit them first. You have to go and punch them in the mouth and then have them react to you. That's how you beat Fox Entertainment.
I think some of these ad projects are doing a good job of engaging people. The Lincoln Project, and this is Steve Schmidt and those Bushites, who I'm not any fan of. And again, they're on MSNBC. Grant's right. Guys aren't going to watch that. But they have something called the Lincoln Project, and they've put out a few good ads. And they're hitting way harder. They basically said, we're going to run the same campaign against Trump that we used to run against the Democrats. And they were very effective for Bush. They were very, so now we're going to get one of their media machines and we get to use it, you know, for our own ends. So we shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. We should hit them with their failures and make them explain. That was my whole point. Master Zarilla, make them explain again and again and again and again.
Like he said,
Right.
if you let them explain, they're losing. You know, I remember, like you said there, Dr. Dai, the very first Tom Steyer commercial that I saw. I thought to myself, how refreshing.
I love him. Yeah.
You know, how
I did too.
refreshing was that to see that one of those early commercials. It was just like, wow. I was, you know, kind of really fell in love with the guy at that point. But you know, it was yeah, that
Like
I hope this Lincoln group does what you're saying.
We need the Steyers and the Gateses and the people who Gates is being, I mean, they're lashing out at Gates and saying the conspiracy theories are just, we should devote a whole show to those because they're wacky. It's like whackology, you know, like you talk about whack-a-mole. This is the information the entertainment network is handing out. Now, Gates had some vaccine in China and it got out of the lab. And, you know, so like, whoa, you know, like you're attacking Bill Gates. He can come at you with a ton of bricks. He has some infrastructure. You know? And all your little computers are running on his operating system. So he's got a ton of leverage in this community. And if him and Steyer and Bloomberg will put their money where their mouth is and Buffett and help us fight, then we have our own little stable of billionaires to come out, and Deval Patrick too, who also wanted to run for president, and kick up the money and let's do some media. I mean, I think you're right, Master Miller. We need some media, and we need vicious media. We need that kind of right-wing media that makes them explain, like, what the heck's going on here? And we're going to get our data from all these states that are reopening. So what do you guys think will happen? I want to switch it up for a minute, get off the heavy. Biden's train is heavy. Right now, right? How does he run? That's a question we can answer every week.
I saw a new ad today for Biden, and it was kind of brilliant. It was short, but what it was Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and it ended with John McCain all praising Joe Biden as a man of honesty and integrity. And if you, from in the past in the Senate, he says, if you can't trust Joe Biden, he's always been up front. If you can't trust Biden in the Senate, who could you trust?
Yeah, and I think that they need that long game like that, right? They need to play the long game.
It was actually, and that's the one they need because it just amazes me. I was talking to a friend how they think. He was telling me something on Facebook about COVID-19. I'm like, do you realize that's conspiracy and false? Just what Di was saying there about it's, you know, the fire in China or whatever else you heard. I'm like, no, you know, and you can't knock it down. But segueing into the COVID-19, I was out, and this pissed me off this afternoon. We ran over because we opened our refrigerator and there's nothing in it but a little bit of milk. So we run over to Poland Giant Eagle, put our masks on. The place is crowded. Now, okay, Poland, Ohio is not a low rent district. I would say 80% or better in there, either if you don't count the workers, did not have a mask on. Social distancing only if we ran from people.
Mm-hmm.
So is this going to be a second wave even sooner because of, you know, idiocracy?
Lou, I saw that same exact thing next door to me yesterday on the far side of my house. You know, not where my driveway is. There had to have been a half a dozen kids on a trampoline, on an enclosed trampoline. Okay. Trust me when I tell you they weren't 6 feet apart. We had two four-wheel quads, you know, running around up and down their property. Two people were in golf carts, side by side. Not one of them had masks on. Not one of them were so. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised at all. We're gonna find out a lot, Dr. Dye, in 10 days, right? In 10 days, we're gonna find out a lot about just how well this the social distancing and this idea of keeping things closed is working, and how much it's not. Because in about 10 days, all of these states who opened up just a little bit, like a fucking tattoo parlor needs to be open now, right? All of these places are gonna tell us a big story.
I think that's going to be the make or break moment, not the make or break moment, but a make or break moment. Every time things open up and we look around and we see what's going on in our state or our community, we're going to judge whether that was a good decision or a bad decision. And that's going to have, unlike any other election before, we're going to look at our bank book. We're going to look in our refrigerator. We're going to look at how we're doing compared to 4 years ago. And it's a complete shit show compared to 4 years ago. Okay. Like the country's a complete shit show compared to 4 years ago. And then we're going to make a decision. And I'm hoping it's not me you have to convince, or anybody on this podcast. It's everybody in the middle. And you're never going to get them Trump guys, like never.
Yeah, but I don't think that those I don't think those Trumpers are of the same numerically the same that we far outnumber them. And don't forget, he won 4 states by a such a small margin that even if all of the people who voted for him continue to vote for him this time, I don't think it's going to matter, because the people who stayed home, who are suffering exactly what you're talking about, looking in the fridge, looking in their bank books, are going to be extremely motivated to vote. And I still want to say that that's part of the reason why he's attacking the Postal Service now. But I think that those people are going to sit there and say, you know what, we can't do this anymore.
If you let the Postal Service fail, you can't vote by mail.
Right.
Think about
that's
this.
why that's why he's
stop
attacking
this. We got to stop this right in its tracks. That's the long game there.
Yeah.
I think also I don't know how it works, but the Postal Service is defined in the Constitution also for the public good. And nothing's ever been changed about that part of it. So if that's the case, is the Senate and everybody else forced to support it no matter what when it comes down to it?
That's research for next week. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we should have had Frank here for that. Or Phil.
Something like about
Frank or
that.
Phil.
Is it allowed to even fail is what I'm saying. Is it allowed to even fail?
Well, whenever you look at this burden that they put on the Postal Service, right, which is what Lou, I think it was, you had it, that was what they had to pay, they had to pay up for
retirement funds in advance. That's why they do not make a profit. Has nothing to do with Amazon or FedEx or Bezos or anything you hear, because they are self-supporting, because there's enough ads and mail going through that is still reliable that they make money. And because they're forced to pre-fund 70, 80 years in advance, that's where their loss comes in. They're paying retirement for people that aren't even hired yet. Let that sink in.
Right. So my point being, whenever this situation was passed, whenever they decided that's how we're going to burden the postal service, I find it very difficult to believe that it was strictly Republicans that voted for this. Right. There had to have been some Democrats. And the only reason I say that is because I can't remember when this whole thing happened. Right.
2005.
So how was the Senate composed then?
That was total Republican before the midterm took the House and possibly the Senate both down for Bush's last 2 years. I'd have to look back to find out.
That was 100% GOP, and they did it to try to sink the post office. And it was done in a vindictive way. It was a long battle. It was a very long battle at that point. And so we can always, like Master Miller says, we can bring that up and force them to explain what they were doing back there.
So this was a party line thing then?
Oh yeah. This was a heck of a battle. This was like a battle on the Death Star, man, for the post office in 2005. Like, this was a long, well-documented battle. There's a lot of footage. There's a lot of tape. There's a lot of stuff to go back to. So they're going to look bad if they try to sink the post office now. And all we have to do is scream, we need to vote by mail, and they're trying to sink the election.
Mm-hmm. And I really do want to see Fox Entertainment try to spin that. Because what are they going to say? Well, voter fraud? Okay, well, you had a president who voted for mail-in, right? He voted in the Florida mail-in, and he voted, as he said, because he could, because he was allowed to. That's why he did it, because he's allowed to, his exact words. I'll fight that. Fight that now.
I'm allowed to. He always says that when he gets to do stuff you don't get to do. He goes, I'm allowed to. I'm the president and you're not. And so that's great if they can get him to say that a bunch of times on camera.
That, to me, that would be another ad campaign. I would take everything he said about intimating being a dictator and ask, is this what a president is under the Constitution of the United States? I'm in charge. I'm in charge of governors, because when he did the opening for in charge of governors, now let me think about it, is states' rights. That's the Republican mantra. And all of a sudden, there's no states' rights if there's a Republican president.
It's funny how that works. Huh?
Let them defend that.
There's so many things we could hit them with, but we have to pick like the biggest weapon.
Yeah.
And then put them on the explanation. I mean, so when they try to kill the Postal Service, start hitting them with the biggest weapons there. I always think of this like a video game now. When they come the other way, and they want to put Biden on the defensive, hit them with, Trump's conduct, which falls into this dictator thing, right? The Lincoln Project's going to do that ad, Lou. That would be a great ad for them. And every time, force them back on their heels, make them go backwards.
I think that if they're going to do this properly, and Dr. Dye, I agree with you. Don't try to counter everything that's going to be thrown, right? Don't streamline and focus on 2, 3, 4 things that are going to hit people at home. What they're going to talk about, like the saying goes, right, at the kitchen table issues, and just keep pounding those over and over and over again. And I think that, let Trump's conduct do the rest. And I can't see where they're going to have a problem.
He's
think
going.
yeah.
Go ahead, Lou.
I think one of the main issues should be this COVID-19 exposed it, and the weakness there is the healthcare issue. They still want to take 20 million people off healthcare in the midst of a pandemic. That case is before the Supreme Court. Think about that. Especially seniors and Medicare. I'm coming toward that age. You know.
Yes, you are.
How could I afford that on my own at my age? You know, you think about what the cost would be per month. I couldn't stop working.
Right. And what do we keep saying about people that age? They all vote.
They all vote. And that's why Trump, but the Republicans lately have been saying they're expendable. So I think that's a great ad, right?
Sure is.
Glenn Beck, the lieutenant governor of Texas. Lou, you posted something about Texas, and Austin's supposed to be their most progressive city, and they're having reopened protests.
Yes. Well, Austin's that's the state capital, right? So they're all going to flock there anyhow, no matter what. So they're probably coming in. They're hired to come in from the outside. And if they're doing that in the Texas Capitol, it makes you wonder if they're watching polling that's thinking that state's teetering too close to the blue line. If all of a sudden you're seeing it in Texas.
I think.
And that was Alex Jones leading the chance of arrest Bill Gates, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. There's another lovely character.
there's a brain surgeon right there. Oh my God.
You're right. That's more your right-wing talking points. Same thing. Conspiracy theorists and
Well, you saw the best one that I saw in a long time was the one that Kelly posted to the Discord group about the family member there.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll bet her ears turned red. She was so mad.
You know, I don't know how many. Well, I think you met her husband once or maybe twice. I don't know if Master Grant ever did, but Di and I know them. Tom's a saint, right? And to have to put up with Kel whenever she got that pissed off. Yeah, he's just assuring his spot in heaven. I know that for a fact because she had to be so pissed.
The only problem with this kind of protesting and whatnot is that they're protesting for the right to harm others, and we have to turn that back on them.
Yeah.
We have to point that out. I'm in a battle with the mayor here in Dystopiaville still. Still fighting the good fight up here. And, because they went to these protests, and I managed to turn public sentiment against it. And,
good for you.
I've alienated the other mommies, though. So there was a political cost for me, but I was willing to pay that. So I'm going to have to make nice with some mommies maybe after this is all over, but I don't really care. It's more important than that, right? This is the leadership of the town. And when we point out that people are doing irresponsible things and what they're fighting for, I think we can slowly win the battle because this is something nobody is left unaffected by.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. You know, all of a sudden it's not the other that's being affected now. Now, these people are being affected too. And I think that carries a lot of weight with it.
All right, gentlemen, I'm running out of drink.
Yeah, me too. Mine's empty,
I'm half empty.
Oh. Well, folks, great pod as always. I feel bad that we started a little bit late, but blame that on me. I'm still getting used to this this streaming thing. Lou, I got one word for you, buddy. Just look at Master Grant. That's all I'm going to tell you. Just look over there at Master Grant. It's the only thing I can tell you.
I got to see if I can find it on here. I got this.
Yeah, maybe not be able to see it on the phone. Anyway, it's an Apple.
I see it.
Apple.
That's all I'm telling you. Well, you saw my setup, right? I'm like, it's like I bought stock in it or something, And I have him to thank for that because he turned me on to all of this. So take it from a software engineer. These folks know these things. Okay.
Well, I'm going to let this one wear down some more, then I'll think about it.
There
Next
you go.
time I need one, I'm just going to call you. You can go buy it.
That sounds fair. I'll hook you up. I'll ask Master Grant first, and then I'll take credit for
All right.
it. Okay, folks. Great part as always. Let's kill this. We'll just go down the line. Anything anybody want to say before we leave? We'll start with Dr. Dye.
No, I think I said so much today. I think we need to look at the data in the coming week. I think that's going to be the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree. Lou?
I'm curious to see just how Pennsylvania is going to open up now, because we were talking the other day when Master Grant and Dr. Dye weren't on about they have the state in like 6 sections, and it looks like we're going first. So we're going to have to watch. We're going to be, they said Northwest, North Central, which we're sitting in, is going to open before any other part of Pennsylvania, because the eastern part of the state's still having a rough time, it looks like. So
That's interesting. Looking
Our
forward.
co-host, Master Grant.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time.
And yeah, we'll pick it up. Well, hell, we're gonna pick it up tomorrow. It looks like, right? 5:30 right here for our normal weekly show. And and until then, like we always say, your time is very valuable, and the fact that you're willing to spend some of that time with us means a great deal to us. It truly does. So on behalf of myself, our co-host Master Grant, and our panel, until next time, goodbye, good luck, and God bless. We'll see you guys all tomorrow.